of the area. And I don't know whether that's good or bad, because they seem to be fluidly looking for other places to kind of occupy as a large mass. In fact, we've had people coming up to us asking, hey, where did everybody go? Where's the protest? Where are we headed? You know, and it's hard to tell because there are so many people scattering in so many directions. But there is a small group still here on the corner across the street near the Chevron, people who are waving flags and certainly trying to get the attention of the drivers as they're going by, people who in cars who are waving their own flags and shouting out to the crowd, shouting support, etc. But such a much different situation than the last time that you came to us, when there was so much chaos, when the dumpster was burning and that out of control car was, you know, driving through the streets, scaring everyone. People were running and fleeing and trying to just stay safe. Choppers still are overhead, still shining down here, trying to track where the crowds are going. So there's a couple in a few different directions, so we can tell that the crowd has splintered off and are keeping law enforcement busy as they kind of move in different directions in large groups. But here where we are, thankfully, a much calmer situation than the last time you came to us, which is good news, even though we do continue to hear those fireworks. But for the moment, things relatively calm, which is good. Guys, back to you.
Certainly, that is good news, Lori. Thank you so much. Oh, keeping an eye on this situation right here, where it looks like law enforcement's established a bit of a line here. Not a lot of protesters, really. I mean, you have some folks here waving the flags and signs, and you know, keeping it peaceful, at least from what it looks like from our perspective. You zoom out and you see a little bit more, but overall, law enforcement outnumbering people, demonstrators, protesters on this particular corner right here.
Yeah, but we're hearing that. The demonstrations now stretch all the way down to LA Live. We're trying to make out what our...
Yeah, that's a person up there in dark clothing, directly on the high ground of law enforcement.
Oh.
Somebody's got a laser on him.
There you go. Running away now.
So I wonder if he was throwing stuff at the cops down there. See, that's...
Would that be the LAPD chopper that has the
No, it would be somebody on the ground.
Oh, okay.
And it would be, you see, okay, so I see the laser keep pointing. I can't tell exactly where it's coming from. Generally, law enforcement doesn't use that unless it's on the other end of a gun, which would, you know, not be ideal for that person. But that laser was certainly enough to scare him off and get out of that area on that hillside.
Yeah, I think even that person was surprised by what was going on in that situation. So, you know, just it took off at a moment's notice. But yeah, just a lot to keep track of right now, as law enforcement and just a scattering of protesters and demonstrators are all over the place right now.
Yeah, we want to go back out to our Lauren Posen, who is on near 1st and Spring. Lauren, can you tell us what you're seeing? Is that fire still growing there?
Yes, the fire is still growing, but I turned my head for 1 second, and then I turned back again, and then I noticed that someone tagged in front of all these officers the signage in front of LAPD. We can't show you all that it says, but it starts with it says all cops, and then I'm not going to repeat the rest of it, but it is right in front of LAPD headquarters there, and again, right in front of all these officers, too. They were able to tag the building there. Now, I am noticing, okay, they're just doing a switch out. But again, yes, the fire, it is still growing. It's still there. We're seeing a lot of hearing and seeing a lot of honking, a lot of people still down here. Not sure what everyone's role is down here, if they're just here just to take this all in, or if they're part of the demonstration. I'm not sure. But that fire does seem to be gaining some energy, a block from... Oh. And there's another firework. I should say, too, we did see a coyote that was in here, and he got really scared by all this, too. So for the people that are passionate about animals, there are animals down here. There's people that live downtown that have dogs and cats and animals, and fireworks are not good for them, as we talk about this every 4th of July. Plus, you have all this going on here, too, with it's really just quite a mess down here. I can't stress that enough. A mess and a very dangerous situation.
Yeah, Lauren, because you have so many people, you're commenting on the number of folks with dogs and everything else. We've seen a number of them walking their dogs, and in some cases, when we were drawing attention earlier to the minivan that was going awry and a driver being incredibly reckless around the area, there were people walking their dogs and going about their night as normal, and that's blending into the situation that we're all monitoring, which is lines and rows of law enforcement established on street corners and on intersections, and then protesters that are nowhere near the size of what we saw when it was earlier in the afternoon near the 101 and the overpass and everything else, but still being incredibly disruptive in these pockets, even as LAPD and other law enforcement start, declaring unlawful assemblies and moving people out. You're seeing it right there. Lori's seeing it, and it's just it keeps creeping up.
Right, exactly. Yeah, it's these pockets that are the problem tonight, right? And it's just a small, well, at least where I'm at, a relatively small group of people that's causing a lot of disruption here. And I wish I could see who's throwing off these fireworks, but I just, I think they throw them and run. But we can't see from where we are, because again, it's dark, and it's dark down here.
Lauren, really quickly, left side of your screen. This is at LA Live. There's a fight in the middle of the street, and somebody is on the ground. And they are attacking that person.
That person in that mini bike, right?
Yeah, and I can't tell. I don't know where that. Did they get up? I can't tell for sure.
Yeah, they got up, and
someone's
coming back and swinging on them again. They're going to try to break it up there.
And this is that LA Live location that I was telling you about.
Man.
You can hear the sirens there.
Yeah, and the person getting up there seems a little wobbly, obviously. Oh, no, and then hit by, it looked like somebody else, too.
Yeah.
You're hoping that they can just get
best to get out, yeah.
But he's clearly injured and is not, wasn't doing a good job of getting out of there. I mean, and you look, and what's disturbing, and I saw it just now in the chopper shot, I saw it earlier, is so many smiles on faces down there. I mean, people think this is funny. They think that they're having a great time down there as they pummel that person in the middle of the road, start fires in the street. It's just really, it's not, whatever message anybody was trying to convey earlier is certainly not being conveyed now.
No, and if anything, the difference is even more stark, right? Because you saw so many people protesting with signs and with flags and doing it peacefully and lawfully, but it's those moments of severe agitation and reaction, like throwing rocks and scooters and concrete and fireworks, and then bleeding off into these moments here where it's just so obvious that one is wildly different than the other and doesn't represent what the majority of people are doing. However, with that said, it still becomes incredibly dangerous and serious to monitor and to take care of, because not just people, like we just saw that person on the bike getting pummeled for seemingly no reason, but then law enforcement as well, because there were so many close calls earlier in the evening of rocks and serious items being this close to hitting them in the head, or their cars, engulfed in flames before getting knocked out. It's just a lot to deal with.
Yeah, at this point, that crowd has really kind of broken off. They're still taking over the street there. And take a look, you can make out some people
somebody
on
else
bikes.
Is down again, or if
it's like a small group has congregated there.
Yeah, it's hard to make out what's going on there, but obviously some yelling.
Yeah, I think that's in Lauren's shot, so we might want to be careful. Yeah, we want to be careful with Lauren's shot, just because we could hear people's profanity there.
And you also have traffic here. Like there were some cars that were stuck in those groups, and we know how dangerous that can be, especially if you're not really moving all that often. Here's more of it right now, and they're just kind of drifting along. Really, this group.
There are a few people holding signs. There are several people waving flags there, and then you have people that you wonder if they are a part of the protest, or if they're there just to, disrupt. But at this point, it looks like they're turning around and walking back.
Yeah.
It doesn't look like, I was just looking at crypto.com arena. I don't think there was any events there tonight.
Okay.
So that's, good, because the last thing we would need is a stadium full of people funneling out into downtown right now, especially where this group is. And, this is why they declared that unlawful assembly for the entirety of downtown, is because these guys are moving all over the place. And now, as we mentioned, geographically, you're pretty far from where LAPD has the vast majority of their resources.
You'd have to imagine at this point, given the fact that all of downtown has been declared an unlawful assembly, if folks just keep slowly spreading out and further away, you would think that law enforcement would prefer that and hope that just means everybody's just trying to call it a night.
LAPD,
Go ahead, sorry.
No, I was just going to say, that's 9 times out of 10 when we see these protests, or I don't even know what this is anymore, not a protest, but when we see these things start to diminish, it's because they slowly splinter, and the smaller the groups get, the less damage they start to do. Look at that, throwing bikes at the police car.
And that's what you're worried about, obviously.
Objects and bikes at this LAPD vehicle that's coming by here.
Got out of there pretty quickly, though.
Oh, yeah. And that's what you heard the chief talk about earlier when they try to form what are called mobile field forces. That's where they get a group of officers to go all in at once, because you have that situation where you have one officer or one patrol car with 2 officers inside, and they were very, very quickly, attacked by these people in the street. So that's why they don't like to send that just single patrol car into situations like this, and they want to deal with it with a mobile field force or a different, more significant amount of resources.
And you wonder that patrol car probably not responding to the situation, right? They continued to make their way through.
Yeah.
We don't know for sure, but and another one making their way through, and we're going to monitor if they're able to.
There's more fireworks on the right side of your screen there go off. It's a reminder of what we saw just about 24 hours ago, just last night, when there was one single law enforcement vehicle left alone after they started to clear out in front of the Federal Detention Center, at least in that part of downtown LA, and one was left by itself and tried to make a right onto traffic as opposed to reversing out with the rest of them. And then we saw a large group of people surround that vehicle, try to open doors, throw things at the back windshield, at the front windshield.
They were able to. A large object at the back windshield, shattered it.
And it just became incredibly dangerous for that one single vehicle. And this is what this moment reminded me of just now.
Yeah, you hope that this officer is prepared to leave this area. You see them backing up now, and that is something that they're going to want to do, because we've seen crowds surround the vehicle, and we're hoping.
The scary part is obviously with traffic and then this large group of people, because now it almost feels like it could get surrounded at any moment.
Look, they're throwing stuff now at the vehicle.
Oh,
and here's the thing, some people will stand in front of it and not let the officer move by.
If these guys get boxed in, that's going to be a really bad situation. So I would assume some incident commander is going to notify these patrol units to stay out of this area until they can get a mobile field force or some other group in here to deal with this. What is looks like 2 different groups on the.
Yeah, I was trying to make out who that was, but it looks like possibly more demonstrators there.
And really
lined up near Pico Boulevard.
Stretching into essentially every lane of traffic right now. I mean, you hear the honking from other vehicles just trying to make it through right now as they continue their march over there. You even hear some more in the background. Hard to tell if that was fireworks or something else, but. Things certainly still fluid at the moment, and you just fingers crossed and hope for the best that nothing serious happens. But every time we say that, then something else sort of picks back up. So of course we'll continue to keep an eye on this right now. As a reminder that LAPD did declare an unlawful assembly in all of downtown LA, so that's why it feels a little bit more scattered right now, as crowds and groups that were there just start fanning out a little bit more to LA Live and beyond. So. With that, let's get back to Lauren Posen, who's been monitoring the situation right now. Lauren, it's hard to tell from your shot. Is that fire still going? Is it out, or what's the situation that you're looking at right now? Gio, from where I'm at right now, it looks like it might be out, but I don't want to say 100% on that because I can't fully see it.
I still see some flames. There's a little bit of flames in the distance there, not as big as before, but there's also a whole bunch of people kind of standing around, so it's hard to tell. There's been an extreme amount of fireworks the last 3 minutes here. People just shooting them off again, and really just kind of jolting everyone. LAPD, the signage has been tagged. This done in front of a row of officers here on motorcycle bikes. The entire downtown here by headquarters. I'm looking at the building right across from the headquarters. That's tagged. The sidewalks are tagged. Everything is tagged. We can't show you what the tagging looks like because there's bad language on it, but I'm sure you can imagine what it says there. Just a very it's weird because, traffic is moving. So, like, on one hand, you think, okay, well, it's almost back to normal, but it's not because you have all this chaos kind of going around you here. And especially, there's another firework going to go off here. They just threw it. See, there's a group of people on the side of the street there. It's a big group of them, and they're still congregated over there, and they seem to be the ones that are throwing off these fireworks into moving traffic. There we go.
Yeah,
there's another one,
there.
too. Again, it's hard to tell what's being amplified. If it's because we're downtown, that's what making it sound louder, or what. But I mean, it's very, very loud. And then you have, on top of that, you have the sirens going off too. We have choppers still above us. And then there's also, like right now, it's almost like eerie moments of quiet. Well, I say that and there's more poppers going off, but it gets quiet, but then it gets loud again. It's as you've been saying all night, it's a fluid situation here, but it's definitely not over, because there's still these pockets of people wanting to be disruptive. I mean, let's call it like it is here. They're being disruptive. They're putting fireworks into the road. They are setting things on fire. This is not what the governor and the mayor has expressed they want to see. They want people to protest peacefully, and I think that we've gone beyond that this evening.
Certainly, especially in those spots. You hear it again there in the background. I mean, that group is still huddled around that same area. You've been keeping an eye on, Lauren, and then on the left side of your screen, for those watching at home, you have this large congregation of folks just continuing to move through traffic, as if they are the cars in the road, and then inching its way forward. Hard to tell exactly where they're going, or we don't know where they'll end up. But there's another large bang, and in the background, is that more fireworks?
Oh, wow.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah, there's fireworks, and I see now there's people right in the park over here. They're shooting from the back, and they're throwing them to where the cars are. And see, the problem, there's another one. I mean, they are just like launching them. I don't know if you can launch I don't know how they're doing it, but they are launching them.
It looks like they're launching them right at people.
I'm seeing. Yeah, hang on, guys. Possibly the sheriff's department might be moving in here that I can't fully see from my vantage point, but I'm hearing that the sheriff's department might be moving in here. Mike, maybe if you could help me confirm that. It's dark out here. It's hard for me to make everything out, and we have all these. Oh, wait, you know what? I see with a white hat. Okay, right in front of, we might be having, now the patrol cars are coming out here too. They don't have their sirens on, but here go, it's a lot of patrol cars coming by here. 2, 3, 4, 5. I mean, probably more than a dozen, or right at a dozen.
Yeah, and Lauren, that does, to me, from this vantage point, well, that's a firework obviously on the right, but what we were listening to earlier did sound more like maybe law enforcement sending some tear gas or some potentially smoke ammunition.
Okay.
We'll have to see. But it did kind of look like that, though you don't really see a heavy law enforcement presence over there. So we do have KCAL coming back into that area, so we'll try to get a vantage point from there too to see if we can get a better kind of picture of who's launching what.
And can I just say one more thing, too, because, Gio, we were talking about this earlier. I'm looking at this park here, and I see so many people walking their animals as if, like, nothing is going on tonight. And I know the dogs have to go out. I understand that. But I don't know. I mean, I wouldn't be walking when there's fireworks going off. You just don't know what's going to happen. I don't know if they're just out here because they want to see what's going on or if the dogs need to go out. But, I mean, it's just there are people just walking around as if it's any other Sunday night.
Yeah, and it's as we continue our coverage here and kind of it's worth taking a quick step back and reminding folks, because we have such a focus and such a laser focus on downtown LA, because that's where the majority of stuff's been happening, as you hear more of the fireworks going on in the background, because there is certainly, you know, a picture has been painted, or at least attempted to be painted by federal officials, by members of the Trump administration, by the U.S. Attorney as well, and many others, versus the picture that's been painted by people like the mayor, the governor, congressmen and women that we've talked to throughout the evening. And this is just one, this is not all of Los Angeles. This is not all of Southern California. It is a sliver that we are focusing on right now. That doesn't make it any less significant, and that's of course why we're focusing on it. But the intensity level of what we're seeing here starts to get isolated toward certain corners, and that goes back to when we came on air at 4 o'clock and noticing things right on the 101, on the northbound and southbound lanes right there at the overpass, to the federal detention building, to just up the street, and you see those Waymos that were called in and set on fire, to now, you know, crowds moving and dispersing even up toward Chinatown and beyond, because now an unlawful assembly has been declared, and things tend to evolve as we keep getting deeper and deeper into the night.
And we have had other situations pop up, right? We saw at one point some of the people walking down past LA Live, they started attacking or pummeling someone on one of those mini bikes that looked like maybe they were part of that group of people, but made some agitated them and led to that. Then we saw a driver of a minivan make their way through the streets, and that was a wild situation. They were driving on the sidewalk. Luckily, a sheriff's patrol car was able to stop that person, and no one was hurt there. So there have been other situations that have popped off from the situation, and the tensions really just rising here in downtown LA. I know we do want to go to our Lori Perez. Lori, where are you? What are you seeing?
So we've now moved right in front of Union Station, and really just some unbelievable scenes playing out here. I want you to take a look down towards that light. You might be able to see that fire there in the lane of the road. That seems to be the starting off point where they are shooting off a continuous show of fireworks. I mean, as if you're at the 4th of July show. We keep seeing that every few moments. Obviously very startling for drivers along the road, and startling for people here who have assembled in this corner. This seems to be the area where a lot of those people who were on the 101 overpass have kind of congregated at this point. They are continuing to shout, and every time any sort of law enforcement car comes by, whether it's LAPD or sheriff's deputies, they are launching rocks and pieces of concrete and bottles, etc., at those cars, which is a really dangerous and scary situation. At this moment, kind of quiet, but lots of honking going on, lots of people driving by with their windows open, waving flags, waving and shouting support to this crowd. But maybe, who knows, maybe this might be kind of thinning out a bit. Of course, LAPD overhead still continuing to monitor. And there you saw that. I mean, that is very scary when we are as close as we are, and that's happening. And look at the cars just so seconds from going through it. That's got to be really terrifying if you're driving down the road and then all of a sudden that goes off right in front of you. So, you know, a lot to still try and keep control of down here, and a lot that still could escalate, certainly if this crowd does not dissipate. You mentioned about the order that has been put into place, telling these people that they need to get out of here, or they need to go home, or face possible arrest. Either they don't have that word yet, or they are ignoring it, because we have not really seen much movement. But hopefully things will get under control soon here. If not, we of course will still stay here on the scene and bring it to you as we are seeing it here live on the ground. For now, Buzz, back to you.
Lori, thank you. And as we continue to keep an eye on the situation, it doesn't look like much has changed there on the right side of your screen. There's another couple dogs getting walked by their owner, I presume. There on the left side of your screen is that live shot of the group of demonstrators, protesters that we've been keeping an eye on, just sort of migrating forward in traffic, through traffic, after initially we saw law enforcement, one vehicle or two vehicles separately, drive through and then having things thrown at them, engaging with these protesters, or I should say these protesters were engaging with them, and things got a little hairy there for a moment and scary. But they came out the other side just fine. And yeah, it's hard to tell exactly where they're going to go, but at this point in the night, we're just sort of reacting and seeing what's going on at any moment's notice.
Yeah, Mike Rogers, do we know, is this the same group that was on their way to LA Live that we're looking at from KCAL?
Yeah,
okay.
they've been slowly kind of marching to the north, away from LA Live. I haven't seen a whole lot of clashes since then, but they are still starting to march to the north near LA Live, where that whole incident happened. And I am looking at our other chopper, where he was looking at a fire just a second ago where Lori Perez was earlier, where that van was driving like a lunatic. John, there's also a fire over at Union Station, if you can look at that too. So we're just kind of giving him some direction there. On the right side of your screen, that's the shot we're talking about. The left side is a different aerial shot of that group near LA Live. There you see City Hall. And look at that really long line of police cars that are moving through John's shot right there.
Wow.
It's just, there's so much law enforcement around here, and no matter how many there are, they're still stretched thin with the geographical area that they're trying to cover. Here is that gas station where Lori was earlier, where it looks like that group is still there.
But the difference being, in case someone's just seeing this for the first time, that earlier when they first were congregating around the Chevron, the lights were on, things were happening, and then it looks like power was, and the lights were shut down. There's the two trash fires that were still, I guess they're still going on. I mean, they've been going on, for at least a while now. And that crowd really hasn't moved too much from that Chevron station, but they've sort of parked there and waited.
And it doesn't look like, I mean, there's no law enforcement in this area, at least for the moment that I can tell. I know we were concerned a little bit earlier about them getting into that Chevron. The Chevron, as you pointed out, the Chevron lights were on, and then they very quickly were not. Once that crowd started to kind of gather around them. So, but for the moment, it looks like they're just kind of hanging out in there.
Yeah, and it looks like it's hard to make out just because it's so dark, but most people are on the sidewalk, right? They're not even congregated at the gas station necessarily. Yeah. And I'm sure the gas station has now closed its doors.
And they are trying to throw things at cop cars.
Yeah.
Yeah, kind of 3 that just 4 now passing the screen there, and and another one. I mean, it's just every opportunity they're just
throwing things at the LAPD vehicles that make their way through.
And LAPD trying to move through there pretty quick.
And there's that innocent driver there stuck in the middle of it all.
Yeah. Another one just did a quick U-turn in the middle of the road just to turn around and get away from there.
Such just a chaotic situation all over the place, all over downtown. LAPD a while ago declaring that unlawful assembly for the entirety of downtown LA. Though obviously, that doesn't mean much to these people. It does give the LAPD the authority to arrest them should they need to, or have the ability to, really, is I think kind of more a little bit what's going on here is LAPD and these officers, not only from the LAPD, the Sheriff's Department, CHP has been down there as well, just trying to coordinate how to do all of this, and how to get and be in all of these different places at once has been certainly a challenge for those law enforcement officers.
Yeah, and right now, I mean, that was sort of a picture of what really everyone that we've been talking to has highlighted as what is obviously not okay and not endorsed in any shape, form, or fashion. That's just one sliver of obviously a lot of we've seen all day. But when you have LAPD just driving through and trying to get to another situation, then seeing items being thrown at them, no one's in support of that in any shape, form, or fashion.
We want to get to Lauren Posen. Lauren, what's the situation where you're at? We know that there has been a fire there for some time. LAPD motors still staged near you. We're hearing some pretty loud music. It may just be cars driving by.
That's right, Leslie. Yeah, it's a lowrider. You're going to see it probably shortly here. He's got a Dodgers flag out. There he goes in the red and the red Cadillac there. But yes, the fire appears to be out, which is a good thing. Fireworks are still going off. We've kind of had a little bit of a break, but I wouldn't hold your breath. I'm sure it's going to happen shortly here again. They keep throwing them out in the road. The PD, they have the motorcycle units blocking off Main here, Main and keep forgetting where I am. I've been here all night. Main, right by City Hall. They've got that blocked off, and then they also have it blocked. Temple, and also down by Main and Temple over there as well. So they have this section kind of blocked off here. They're not allowing traffic to go through. People on foot have been able to go through, but there hasn't been that many people because, as we've heard, this has been declared an unlawful assembly. So hopefully, we're seeing people kind of listen to that, at least in this little section here, except for the block up where you see people waving the flags. And there's still a group of people. They look to be in the road right now. I don't know if they're going to be blocking traffic because the light's red, but we'll see what happens here. Or they could just be crossing. But, see? Like I said, I wasn't going to hold my breath that we were not going to see any more fireworks tonight, and they keep getting bigger and bigger too. Now I am seeing, looking at the headquarters here, I'm seeing a group of law enforcement walking. I don't know where they're going, but they're walking out. And again, in terms of the graffiti downtown, it is all over. In fact, the headquarters of LAPD were tagged right in front of these officers here. Even though there are barricades out, they were still able to tag the signage there. Yeah. And we have people, I don't know if you can see here, spectators too, just taking video, taking pictures as all this is happening as well too.
Yeah, it looks like LAPD officers are staging right along that barricade that they've placed in front of headquarters there. But you can see it looks like this group on our right side that KCAL has been, or SkyCal has been monitoring.
That's back at the gas station and the trash fire.
Are they running from law enforcement?
I can't tell, John. Were you able to tell what they kind of took off from? I don't know if LAPD's pushing in right there. Oh yeah, there's an officer, a line of LAPD moving through there.
Oh, okay, there you go. You have the mountain unit back out, and you see the officers there. One has a bullhorn, and you can imagine they're probably giving those dispersal orders, saying, hey, you got to get out of this area. We are going to start making arrests if you do not. And many of those people now just taking off running in the other direction.
Yeah, there you go.
There's still, fireworks?
See
smoke over there.
Yeah, smoke over there. The dumpster fire's over there. And you're right, number of law enforcement surrounding
this entire area here,
So then we play this game of where they're going to move to, what's the next thing they're going to go do. Now, the only hope is that every time these groups move, they'll start to splinter. And they get smaller and smaller.
People will start making that decision to leave and go home.
Then maybe as it gets later and later, just tire out and decide, all right, we've had enough for a day.
But you can see CHP completely, not CHP, excuse me, law enforcement, LAPD most likely just stage along Cesar Chavez, taking over where that Chevron is, and we saw all those people standing moments ago. Let's go to our Lori Perez. Lori.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. I mean, that was a really welcome sight for us when all of these officers came in and really took over this intersection, pushed back a lot of those people who had started to congregate. You can see that they have not been able to get a hold of the group that continues to put off those fireworks, but they have cleared much of this intersection of the crowd that had gathered here, which is really helping to alleviate things here, which has really gotten traffic moving. But they are still facing some aggression. You might have just heard that. Someone just threw, first of all, there's a firework, but someone just threw some rocks or concrete or something at an LAPD car and it smashed a window. You can see LAPD is lining up. They are advancing across the street. They do want to keep this crowd moving. And as Mike was saying, hopefully dissipate the crowd. We don't want to get into this game of where you just keep pushing them and then they move somewhere else. You have to push them. They really do want to try and disperse now that there's that dispersal order is in effect. They want these people to get out of here, to get out of LA, to go home, and to relieve the tension that has been on the streets for so many hours now. But it's difficult to tell where those fireworks are coming from, but they do continue to go off despite the police presence on this corner at this point. But they do seem to be getting a handle on it, which is good news. So we're going to continue to monitor this situation and hope that, now that the dumpster fire seems to be under control, now that the crowd seems to be gone, that perhaps there will be some peace and calm restored, at least on this corner. Guys, back to you.
Lori, thank you. And one of the things here too, Mike, and we've drawn attention to this over the course of the afternoon and evening, is that you're not seeing a lot of direct, really face-to-face confrontation with law enforcement and these large groups of people. Now, some of that was inevitable earlier in the afternoon when there were so many people, and law enforcement basically just had to establish those lines and then slowly push their way, for example, on the 101 and get them off the freeway and then back over onto the on-ramp. But now it just seems like they're kind of letting it play out a little bit before then making a very targeted move and effort here, like we saw with the mounted unit, with everybody else. And then you see the squad of vehicles in the background as well, and it seems to have worked rather efficiently, at least in this case, to get everybody out as intended. Yeah,
and push them through, and it is a different type of situation. We are certainly seeing skirmish lines eventually, but not to the point where you were talking about earlier, where they are so face-to-face with everybody. This is more of a situation where the people get kind of worked up for a little while, they do what they do, they set something on fire, whatever, and then LAPD comes in, and almost as soon as they see that large number of LAPD, then they're done. They want to move, they want to go somewhere else and do that. Now, I did just get a message from a law enforcement source that, certainly we are seeing fireworks that is coming from the crowd, but I'm being told by a source that a lot of the bangs that we're hearing are actually coming from law enforcement that are throwing some of those things, which would explain why we see that crowd so suddenly scatter. They whether or not it's tear gas or just flashbangs or smoke, that we saw CHP using earlier, it's enough to get that crowd kind of jolted and move and get out of there. Now we'll have to kind of look around, and I can ask John to do that for us and kind of figure out where our largest group of people are. I mean, I know there was still kind of a group of people over at LA Live, though the CHP helicopter that was helping out with that looks like they've left that area. So I don't know if those guys splintered off as well. John's looking around for the other group, but that was kind of our last, aside from LA Live, that was kind of our last real organized group, and they seem to have really splintered after that.
Yeah, and that is a welcome sight for law enforcement, who really is just working to get these people out, get them home off of the streets, as they have declared an unlawful assembly and a dispersal order for all of downtown Los Angeles. Now, people that are watching this nationally or may not be here or may just be tuning in, they may be wondering, okay, where is the National Guard? We were talking so much about the president bringing in 2,000 National Guardswomen, and we are not seeing them. And that is because we have been told by the mayor, by other officials, by LAPD police chief, that the Guard's mission right now is only to protect federal building, federal land. And that is because the Guard has been federalized, which means that they are not being essentially told what to do by the local government here. And at this point, we have not seen them leave that federal detention center.
Not at all, yeah.
So we have seen LAPD, CHP, sheriffs, but the National Guard has stayed put at the federal detention center, and we have not seen anything there besides this morning. Mike, I want to get to you.
Yeah, I just want, John, zoom in tight on that line of sheriff's deputies, and I think we're going to see where a majority of these bangs are coming from. So watch, and I believe it's going to be one of the ones that's underneath the traffic signal there, and you'll see them here in a second. Looks like
they have someone detained there in that area too.
Left. But then at the top of the screen, I just a couple seconds ago saw them throw one of those, what I believe to be a flashbang, towards the crowd. So we'll see if they do it again. But when we hear those pops, a lot of them, it looks like, are now starting to come from law enforcement. Certainly, the crowd is shooting off fireworks, but law enforcement is now starting to use these flashbangs to, to get the crowd to disperse. And I just saw one of the deputies throw it. It looks like that was effective, so I'm not seeing them throw any more. But now we can look at this person being detained here.
Yeah, I want to add one more quick comment back to wrap Leslie's point on the National Guardsmen, because there was a deployment of, and please correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe it was 2,000, but there's only 300, here on the ground.
About 300.
About 300.
If
so
you can hear me, we're having some activity happen out here.
And it sounds like Lauren might be keeping an eye on certain things down there. Let's get to her right now. Lauren, we heard you say there that something might be happening. What's going on?
Yeah, there's some activity here. Some patrol cars have pulled up. They have their sirens on, and you can see people are still lighting off fireworks. Let's see here where they're going to go. Okay, well, as I'm looking in the distance here, I see there is still a handful of people at that building right across from the police station, and I've been hearing that they possibly have been trying to set that building on fire, and that's why they're all congregated over there, and that's something that law enforcement is watching very closely. And I'm also been observing here that it looks like we have a chopper right above us too. It's not a news chopper; it's a PD chopper. I don't think it's the Black Hawk we saw earlier today, but we got this marine layer. It's hard to see exactly. That the sheriff's department has formed a skirmish line right behind City Hall here, and they were making advances on that crowd that had that trash can fire, and then would move back as well. And they did, as Mike said, deploy that tear gas that we caught a whiff of. But we have a lot of helicopters above us now. It's getting really noisy. Looks like they may have their eye on something or someone, that being police, but it's hard to say right now because it's really, got a lot of things going on. We got traffic moving. We have the police in front of us here. And then, of course, we have that. It looks to me like somewhat of a large group in front of that building there as well, right across the street from where we are. Mike, I'll send, and Leslie and Gio, I'll send it back to you guys. Maybe, Mike, maybe you have some more information as to what's going on. It's hard for me here on the ground with what's going on here to kind of get answers.
Yeah, and we're going to move, John, I'm going to have you go over to kind of Lauren Posen's location, and I believe it's still in the area. Lauren, are you still in the area, Main and Temple, or where are you? Is that First and Spring still?
Right. I'm at Main and First, actually. But yes, Main and yeah.
So he's swinging the camera around right now, and we'll kind of look and see what that situation is. Yeah. And I think it's going to be right under him, so they may have to adjust a little bit here. But yeah, so we'll check that out here in just a second as he maneuvers KCAL around. But again, this is back where that original fire was. This is kind of in the area. There's all the motorcycles, and I think, John, maybe just up the street, one way. Yeah, right there on the corner, John, over to your right, near police headquarters. Yeah. So there's this group here that I think they're trying to address a bit further down, more towards the intersection, John, right there on the corner. Yeah.
Right there.
So that's the group they're trying to address. Standing around a little bit for the most part. We'll see. But there you go, another fire in the street, or that's the same fire from earlier, rather. That still didn't get extinguished.
But what we're seeing from Lauren's shot, you are seeing that large group there on Spring and First. On the other side, though, you started seeing a very small group, maybe only about 4 or 5 people. They started placing what looked like barricades in the middle of the roadway. And that is something we've seen law enforcement move pretty quickly to prevent or to at least dismantle, because that is a very dangerous situation as we're watching fireworks go off and law enforcement make their way down First Street.
Barricades.
Yeah. You can see it's that small group, but someone wearing an orange hoodie there has set up those barricades. It looks like in the street.
And when John comes around the old LA Times building, it looks like there was some more fireworks getting set off right there as LAPD tries to move through that area, which they do so carefully, or quickly rather, because every time they drive past a group, they get things thrown at them.
Yeah, there's a lot going on right now because and we mentioned this earlier about how it's every time one large group seems to be dispersed, another one seems to crop up at a slightly different location or somewhere around the area. Once again, worth repeating that LAPD has declared an unlawful assembly, so they are working to clear the area or at least warn people, hey, we have the right to arrest you if you're still in this area and have not left. So that's really trying to sort of clean up the edges and get people out and go home or at least go away and remove themselves from this area. But then every few minutes or so, we tend to see another gathering, another group, and then the fireworks go off. Or just when you think, I just saw another flash there we go again on the left side of your screen. You can't let your guard down, and certainly law enforcement is not doing that, but I just mean in the general sense of watching what's going on. Yes, the crowd has thinned out compared to what we saw earlier, and every hour that passes, it almost seems like it keeps getting a little bit smaller, on top of the fact when you start dispersing the crowds, Mike, like you mentioned, they get scattered and perhaps they just start to dissipate, but then again, you see another one start to form, and you have to be wary and be careful because you don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah. I know we were working to get Mayor Bass here sometime soon, so I want to check in with our producer to see if we are possibly going to hear from the mayor. Okay, we are waiting for her to call into our newsroom, but we are expecting to hear from Mayor Bass here in any moment. But until then, we're continuing to monitor the situation. A lot of activity at Spring and First Street near...
Something's happening, I don't know what, but yes.
Okay, you can hear Lauren. You can hear Lauren saying that something's happening in her location. Just finishing my thought here. A lot of activity at Spring and First Street. That's where she is. Lauren, what are you hearing? I know you're saying there's some sort of activity picking up.
Right, we have a fire truck here. The officers are going to let them go by. And then behind the fire truck, there's 4 patrol cars. And let's see where they're going to go. Hopefully they're going to where that fire was. Now, see, I see there's another fire being started right by that building. And I think Mike said that was the old LA Times. Yeah, the old LA Times building. It's right in front of there. It's... Okay, we got the. Also, these fireworks, they're putting them off right as cars drive by. It is so incredibly dangerous.
And Lauren,
not only are they doing it in front of patrol cars.
Yeah, that's a trash
sorry,
can.
Go ahead.
No, it's okay. That's a trash can they're trying to set on fire in front of the old Times building. We see it right there on the corner. Unsuccessfully, thankfully, but they are trying.
Right.
Yeah, it looks like that.
Right, but you know, these fireworks. Yeah. Yep, go ahead, sorry.
No, it looked like that fire truck was, it stopped moving there. Does it look like they're staged in that location, or are they just stuck? Oh, no, they're going to keep going.
Okay, they're turning around. Oh, what are they doing? Okay. All right, I think they, you know what it is? They can't get around those cars. That's what the problem was. Those cars didn't move over. And so that's what they're trying to do. So, let me get back over here so I can get a better view here of what's happening. And now, there's just still a lot of people in front of the old LA Times building. Now, the fire truck is stopped. I see officers on the ground. They're getting out of those patrol cars with the firefighters. And the firefighters are out of their truck. And where are they going? Okay. Really hard for me to see, but I do see a group of people mixed in with the firefighters and mixed in with the PD. Go ahead, Mike.
No, it looks like, I mean, they're talking to, that's police headquarters right there. We were looking at it from KCAL too, Lauren.
Yeah.
So that's that, but I do want to I understand from our booth, we do have Mayor Karen Bass on the phone with us. So we want to absolutely get to her. Mayor Bass, can you hear us?
I can.
Hi, Mayor. So walk us through kind of where we're at in this situation tonight from what you understand it.
Well, things are slowly but surely calming down. After the protest that was predominantly peaceful several hours ago, a number of people stayed around and unfortunately were committing violence, in the form of defacing buildings, throwing bottles, throwing cans, and that's just unacceptable. And they need to understand that when the LAPD declares an unlawful assembly, They need to leave, not scatter around the city creating violence or graffitiing up buildings. This does not help anything. You know, I think about those families that are terrified right now because they don't know where their loved one is. They don't know if their loved one has been taken to another country, another city, and this is not helping anything. This does not promote the integration and acceptance of immigrants. This pits Angelenos against each other, and I just think that it is completely unacceptable and uncalled for.
Mayor Bass, you know, earlier today you tweeted that you met with the governor, the police chief, LAPD, the sheriff, as well as other law enforcement partners about how to keep Angelenos safe. What is the answer here tonight? Because as you mentioned, we've been monitoring this situation for hours. We've seen CHP cars get destroyed. Officers get pelted with concrete objects. What is the solution?
Well, you know, when you have a protest and everybody has the right to use their First Amendment ability to speak freely, to protest peacefully, that is the American way. And this is just unacceptable. And you know, in these situations, the vast majority, I would even go so far as to say 95% of the people that attend these protests are attending them peacefully. And that 5% that lingers after is the ones that get involved in trouble, get involved in the vandalism. And that just has to be made very clear that there will be consequences. So if you stand around and you graffiti a building or you conduct some other act of violence, you are going to be held accountable, and you should not think that just because you don't get arrested tonight that you won't be arrested. There's videotape of just about everything that happens in our city.
Mayor Bass, I want to ask about communication, because obviously there's the National Guard component. When the president deployed 2,000 National Guardsmen, it's our understanding only about 300 are down here in the LA area. They have essentially not been really visible in terms of our live coverage that we've been keeping on all afternoon and all evening. There's the CHP component as well when it came to the 101 entrance and the on-ramp and getting people off of that. Then, of course, there's LAPD, and we've seen law enforcement skirmish lines established all across the downtown area. What have been the difficulties when it comes to communication between all these different layers of law enforcement and everything else that's going on?
I actually don't think there has been a difficulty. I mean, in terms of the federalized National Guard, they are stationed at the federal building. The CHP takes care of the highway. So when the protesters went on the highway, it was CHP. Even in front of the federal building, you have the Federal Protective Services, so federal officers. And then, you know, of course, you have LAPD. So I think actually the communication and collaboration has been good. I was at the command center most of the day today, and, you know, people are literally working in the same room together. The CHP is there, the Federal Protective Services are there, the National Guard wasn't there, but everybody is in communication. And I think that that's why things have gone well. I mean, you haven't seen massive violence take place. You haven't seen, you know, police officers engaging in a violent manner with people. There have definitely been some isolated incidences. But, you know, someone had made a comparison to what had happened in L.A. in the past. It's just very important to realize that this is happening on a few streets in downtown L.A. This is not citywide. This is not massive civil unrest. And obviously, I don't ever want to see that happen in our city again, which is why we have to be very aggressive now and send a very clear message that vandalism will not be tolerated.
And a quick follow-up to that communication point, I want to extend it to the federal government as well, because I know you mentioned you've been staying in communication with a lot of folks, including the president, or at least attempting to talk to the president and other federal officials. How do you maintain that message to de-escalate the situation? Because that's not just coming from you, that's coming from other folks we talked to tonight, including LA County Supervisor Janice Hahn, in that there's a repeated attempt to try and talk to Secretary Noem, to the U.S. Attorney, to President Trump, and saying we all need to take a step back here in order to calm things down.
You know, you should know I have not reached out specifically to the president. Okay. I am attempting to reach out to Secretary Noem. You know, we knew each other. We served in Congress together for 10 years. And there's other officials that are in the administration that I have been in contact with, including Tom Homan as well as the new U.S. Attorney Bill
Saley?
Bill Saley, yes.
Yes.
Mayor Bass, Leslie here. We're hearing tonight the California Lieutenant Governor has announced that the state government will file a lawsuit against the federal government for deploying the National Guard. Have you been in contact with the Lieutenant Governor at all?
No, I have not spoken to the Lieutenant Governor today. I met with the governor for quite a while, but I've not spoken to the Lieutenant Governor.
We're just getting a post from LAPD right now, Mayor Bass. Business owners are now reporting stores being looted in the area of 6th Street and Broadway.
My God.
And that's just another layer. As we've mentioned, only a small group of people still on the streets of downtown Los Angeles. This is not the larger protesting group we've seen throughout the day. But what is the solution to de-escalation? Are there any talks about bringing in possibly more law enforcement, maybe some other city agencies, mutual aid? I know that the police chief, LAPD police chief, said that they were, quote, overwhelmed.
Well, I will say, but I don't think he meant that they were overwhelmed to the point of needing mutual aid. I know that, our chief has great relations with other departments all through the region, and if mutual aid is needed, I know that he wouldn't hesitate to call on it. But in my conversations with him, he did not indicate that they were overwhelmed and they couldn't manage the situation at all.
Mayor Karen Bass live with us tonight. Mayor, thank you so much for your time this evening. We certainly appreciate it.
You're very welcome.
We want to get to Mike Rogers. Mike, we had spoken about possible looting.
Yeah, and that's what we're looking at on the right side of your screen. This is in the area, I believe we said 6th and Broadway. Let me just double check that. But 6th and Broadway. You see LAPD down there. Business owners had reported that their stores were being looted. Now, it's hard because there's an overhang. We're also dealing with a lot of helicopter traffic, marine layers, what have you. So I don't know if John can tell us if he sees any broken windows, anything like that on any of these storefronts. I do see those officers standing there, sees a guy on a phone who looks to be, upset about something. I just can't tell, John. I don't know if you can, if there's any damage to any of the storefronts there. So we'll look for that. But yeah, we don't know the extent of it, but we do know that the officers were responding. Oh yeah, look, actually, I'm so sorry. They're standing right in front of a broken window. It looks like that shattered on the floor or something like that. I can't tell if that was the door. As John kind of moves around a little bit, we'll try to get a better idea on that. But this is obviously another escalation in this. We had graffiti, we've had clashes with officers, and now if businesses are being looted, that is just another, terrible escalation in what has gone on in downtown Los Angeles tonight. And again, to the mayor's point, to everyone's point that has brought it up, it totally dilutes whatever message was trying to be spread. And it looks like it's a shoe store, I believe. I see the Jordan logo there on top. So that is common. I mean, those shoe stores are the ones that kind of get hit frequently. They've got some very high priced items in there that go in, and yeah, it does look like that door is actually super just flat out on the front. So I don't know if they got in there and then kicked it forward or what exactly happened. And as John comes around further, I can't tell if that's what's on the floor right there, but that definitely looks like some damage was done here. Now as these officers have to investigate this, and yeah, you can see shoes kind of all about. I can't tell if that's bags or exactly what that is laying down there on the floor, but definitely something that went on. And when you look, I just happened to notice, you look at the police cars that are out front, and I can tell by the numbers on top of them just how far away from different parts of the city these officers are coming from. That one right there, that black and white, is from Pacific Station. I saw a Van Nuys Station officer there. I mean, so this is truly like from all over the city are now in downtown LA having to deal with this mess.
Yeah, we know that they've called a tactical alert but earlier in the day, much earlier in the day, just trying to get as many LAPD resources down here. But I just asked the mayor, is there any chance of now calling in mutual aid, which means that the LAPD could call upon the sheriffs, who could call upon other local city agencies? And she says that the chief, if he needed to do that for LAPD, he would. He has not. And she does not feel, in their conversation earlier today, that the department or officers
Right.
were overwhelmed by the situation.
Yeah, and we've seen situations where, like, the quote-unquote bad actors, right? They'll take advantage of the chaos of a situation and then do this exact thing that we're now seeing here, which is get into stores and loot stores and, just try and sow even more chaos or try to take advantage for themselves, given how chaotic a lot is going on, because you have so much law enforcement focused elsewhere, or perhaps having their attention shifted to a different direction, and now you have to focus in on this while still maintaining, a presence elsewhere because of a number of protesters there on the left side of your screen. That collection there on the corner seems to, I'm wondering if that's the same one we were taking a look at before, but regardless, it's still, it's past 10:30 and you have a large group still congregated there, though it doesn't seem, based on this vantage point, that they're doing anything at the moment that is drawing too much attention, though of course we'll continue to keep an eye on it.
Yeah, as we look at shoeboxes laying on the ground there from
Yeah.
those people that got in there, got what they could, and kind of got out, and now LAPD is going to have to stand guard here and wait until the business owner can show up and board it up or do what they need to do to be able to protect their business for at least for tonight.
Yeah, and they may or may not be there already. I saw a gentleman on a phone. It looked to be like in a black sweatsuit that was trying to make their way in. He's on the phone right there on the sidewalk. Possibly business owner or some sort of manager, security of some sort. Don't know, but it looked like he was possibly involved with this location and is trying to get a handle on, what happened, what was taken, and just how bad it was looted there.
Yeah, let's get back to Lori Perez. It's been a little bit since we checked in with her. Lori, what are you seeing? Where are you right now?
Maine.
So we are Acadia. We're on the overpass back at the 101 City Hall. You might be able to see over here is lit up for Pride Month, and things are pretty empty around where we are. We do still see LAPD staged over here to the right. They do not want to allow anyone who comes back into this area. They do not want to allow them to come back towards City Hall. That's why they are staged there. And in the meantime, though, we do see LAPD helicopters that seem to be trying to track groups that are both to the north of us and possibly to the south of us. So still a lot going on here and a lot of staging going on along each of these overpasses. We've seen CHP and LAPD really trying to keep groups from getting back into that downtown Los Angeles area, around City Hall, around the federal building. We don't want them anywhere near there. From where we were over on Olvera Street, that crowd has since dissipated after LAPD came in force. We do still see and hear some fireworks going off to the north of us, which seems to indicate that there are groups that are still assembling in that direction. But we're trying to keep an eye out and trying to find out where is the next hot spot for us to go to try and keep an eye on the situation for you. Now I'll send it back to you guys.
Yeah, it was a little hard to hear Lori there, but you can hear the helicopters overhead. You could hear some of the fireworks going off. And then she was saying that law enforcement has pretty much staged all around the Civic Center area to prevent anyone from going back in. We were seeing that store that was looted there look like law enforcement was making their way through. Gio, I believe we have a soundbite really quick from Chief McDonald with LAPD, just addressing some of the tactics of some of the people down there that were causing disruption.
This violence that I've seen is disgusting. It's escalated now since the beginning of this incident. What we saw the first night was bad. What we've seen subsequent to that is getting increasingly worse and more violent. Tonight we had individuals out there shooting commercial-grade fireworks at our officers. That can kill you. And we have adapted our tactics to be able to have a chance to be able to take these people into custody and to be able to hold them accountable. We are overwhelmed as far as the number of people out there engaged in this type of activity and the type of things that they're doing. they'll take backpacks, and the backpack will have a cinder block in it. They have a hammer, and they'll break up the cinder block and use that, pass it around to throw at officers, to throw at cars, and throw at other people. We've seen people with hammers, and you've broadcasted, breaking the bollards behind the federal building and taking the rocks, if you will, or pieces of concrete, and throwing them at officers. We've had liquid of who knows what description thrown at officers. There's no limit to what they're doing to our officers.
Okay, I think Mike Rogers did want to speak here. If we can bring up his mic, LAPD,
Yeah.
That was LAPD Chief.
That was LAPD Chief Jim
McDonald.
McDonald, and a couple seconds ago we got a statement from the Sheriff's Department saying they did in fact add mutual aid to LAPD. You know, we'd heard the chief say that they were overwhelmed as far as the number of people. We had talked to the mayor moments ago about mutual aid, and it appears they did do that and got 100 deputies from the Sheriff's Department to come help them. Now, left side of your screen, I want to point this out, and John, if you can go back in, I don't know if they're still up there, but just a couple seconds ago, what we were looking at was Los Angeles Police Department officers on the roof of that shoe store doing a full clearance of the building, and I don't think they're up there anymore as they've kind of moved through there, but they were right there. It looks like a basketball court actually on top of that building. So they were up there on top of that building, just kind of going through to making sure that nobody else was up there after that store was looted. We see that glass door there laying down on the front as officers now will have to do a crime report there. The business owner is going to have to deal with the cleanup on that, and just kind of the latest. So far, it is the first instance of looting and hopefully the last instance of looting that we have seen. As you see LA City Hall there off to the right side of your screen, a large number of law enforcement. I'm going to ask John to kind of move around and see. Well, there it is. That didn't take long. I was going to ask John to see if we could find where the largest group of people was, and then suddenly I see smoke billowing up from behind that building. There are people over there. It's a pretty consistent amount of smoke. It may be a fire. It looks like it's probably more, unless it's one of those smoke canisters that was being used earlier. But KCAL's going to maneuver over there, and we'll try to see what that is. But as we continue to kind of look around downtown here just to see where exactly everything is at. Oh, that's a big fire. Oh, wow,
that is a large fire.
Where's this? John, where is this? All right, let's see. We'll work on talking to John here in a second, but that is a...
I wonder if that's a garbage can or a car. You can't really make it out there.
It kind of looks like a garbage can, though. I mean, there is a car directly in front of it, too, so you worry about the flames spreading over to that vehicle.
Look, it's on the power lines, too.
Actually,
I think that is like a van.
Oh, yeah, it does look like a van.
Sorry, John, I had you down. Where is this? Nope. All right, we'll work on figuring that out. But there you see the power lines sparking right now, and you see some train... Jackson and Center Street, I'm being told by John. So is that Union Station back there with those railroad tracks, or I can't tell exactly where we're at. Or close-ish. Look at all that sparking, though, from the fires, or from the power lines, rather.
Wow. And you don't even see a crowd even surrounding that anymore, so you wonder if that was a one lone person, someone who just is taking advantage of the chaotic nature and the tensions.
Well, that's what John and I were talking about. John was just, remarking that might just be an everyday car fire that we sometimes deal with here in LA. So
that might be that as well.
It could.
That could just be a today fire.
Yeah.
We'll come back here to where
is those fireworks going off. They're not just kind of a symbol of where the crowd is. They've often been used as an offensive in a lot of ways against police. Obviously something we've seen all day long. We're live tonight in downtown LA. Tim Caputo, ABC 7 Eyewitness News.
Tim, thank you. And as this chaos continues to unfold, the LAPD declared an unlawful assembly in downtown LA. Chief McDonald holding a press conference earlier this evening after meeting with Governor Gavin Newsom and Sheriff Robert Luna. Eyewitness News reporter Amy Powell joining us live with that part of the story. Amy?
And Mark, the last time we spoke to you, you saw there were fireworks going off on the street. We're here on Broadway overlooking the 101 freeway. Well, since then, sheriff's deputies have arrived to clear the street. In fact, we got a line of deputies coming past us right now. So all of those people with the explosive devices took off. They ran down the street. Just a moment ago, we saw several vehicles heading down the street. And you see they're firing off some non-lethal weapons right now. The helicopter's going over, so apparently they probably spotted those people with the explosives who were here earlier because, again, some of those devices they were setting off, the firecrackers, actually ignited a tree on fire across the street. We can't show you that right now because we got a sheriff's vehicle blocking that, but the sheriff's deputies have come here. They've cleared off this street, and those protesters are on the run. Now, massive crowds of protesters, as you know, have been gathering in the streets around the Federal Detention Center, angry about that series of sweeps in the LA area during which ICE detained dozens of people, some setting fire to several Waymo vehicles, the blazes sending up thick plumes of black spokes. Now, tonight we saw people burning other materials on a street near City Hall. Many in the crowd have been demonstrating peacefully, but tonight there are still people setting off the fireworks, as I mentioned, and committing acts of vandalism. Earlier we heard from LAPD Chief Jim McDonald. He said his department was given no advance warning about the actions taken by federal agents. He also made it clear that the LAPD does not participate in immigration and customs enforcement, and he's urging LA residents to protest without breaking the law.
When peaceful demonstrations devolve into acts of vandalism or violence, especially violence directed at innocent people, law enforcement officers, and others, we must respond firmly. An act of violence, whether toward officers, demonstrators, or the public, will be met with swift and lawful action.
Back out here live once again, the sheriff's deputies are here on Broadway, and they have really cleared the protesters off this street. Again, the people setting off those explosives took off running, and we don't know if the sheriff's deputies have been able to catch them. Now, one other point I want to make about what Chief McDonald was saying, he addressed the issue. There was a claim made that the LAPD delayed responding to a federal officer's request for help by more than 2 hours. He says that is simply not true. He says the officers were not pre-deployed, so once they received that request for help, they were there within 38 minutes. So once again, the LAPD wants people to follow the law. That's why they are taking part in enforcement efforts tonight, trying to get people off the streets, trying to keep these demonstrations peaceful, which of course has not been the case certainly today. I'll send it back to you, Mark.
Yeah, Amy, behind you, it looks like a fire has been set by someone. We have your shot, and we also have Gabe Santos in Air 7 over it to show us what's burning right now. Gabe?
Yeah, law enforcement believes that this is an arson fire, and there's you know, a lot of these that have been set throughout the night. So LAPD, LA County Sheriffs, all of the law enforcement resources here, now LA City Fire, are literally trying to put out little fires in the downtown area. And this is one of them that has kind of spread pretty quickly up on a hillside. It's going uphill. We know brush fires in dry conditions, they burn very quickly uphill, but LA City Fire was able to get on scene pretty quickly here, and they're going to, as soon as they get those hose lines in position, they are going to be able to put some water on this and get it out, because it is this specific little area here, which is north of the 101 freeway off of Spring Street, is not an area that is heavily populated with protesters or demonstrators. You can see that skirmish line on the right side of the picture there, just trying to maintain security on, I believe that's going to be Hill Street in the background there. As I said earlier, law enforcement believes that this was an arson fire, and LAPD has their helicopter overhead trying to direct other available units, if they are available and they can safely do so, to try and take the person into custody that the air unit officer believes actually started this fire, at the very least added fuel to this fire and helped it spread. So this is what LAPD, LA County Sheriffs, and all the law enforcement agencies in downtown are working with right now. You still have a lot of individuals kind of scattered throughout the downtown area. We're not seeing a lot of major crowds as we saw earlier, but a lot of individuals that are bent on doing things like this and starting fires, starting dumpster fires and the like, and LAFD has to kind of wiggle their way through the crowds around some of the debris and make their way in to put fires like this out. I'm a little bit surprised that they haven't opened the hose lines, if you will, to start getting water on this. And there you go, right there. They have been able to start putting water on this fire. Hopefully this one will be out in pretty short order here, Mark.
It's indicative, really, Gabe, of the fact that if it doesn't take a lot of people to cause this sort of chaos. One person starts a fire here, another person starts a fire there, a few people barricade a street, and all of a sudden you've got all kinds of incidents happening in downtown LA. Thank you for that report. You know, they're supposed to be working together, but they're not. They're at cross purposes right now to the escalating war of words between state and local leaders and the White House tonight. That's what we're talking about. President Donald Trump firing back after Governor Gavin Newsom and Mayor Karen Bass blasted his decision to deploy National Guard troops amid protests against federal immigration raids. Eyewitness News reporter Jory Rand has been following this political fight and joins us live from our newsroom. Jory.
Mark, Governor Newsom says that President Trump wants chaos. He has instigated violence. That's coming from the governor. He continues. He's manufactured a crisis and is inflaming conditions. That's the governor talking about the sitting president. Meantime, President Trump appears to be itching for a fight, hinting at the possibility of escalating this showdown even further, threatening to deploy U.S. military troops against its own citizens. National Guard has now officially been deployed in Los Angeles. The governor now saying he has formally requested that the Trump administration rescind what he calls an unlawful deployment of troops in Los Angeles County. The governor is asking that they be returned to his command. He goes on to say, "We didn't have a problem until Trump got involved." But tonight, the president is doubling down on social media, claiming the protesters are paid insurrectionists.
You have violent people, and we're not going to let them get away with it. I think that you're going to see some very strong law and order.
So the governor says now that there is a lawsuit pending tomorrow to try and reverse this decision from the president. We spoke with Loyola law professor Jessica Levinson today, who says the real legal question here is whether the emergency circumstances exist that would allow the president to use the military as direct domestic law enforcement under the Insurrection Act.
So I think at that point, you would have California having standing to sue. I'm not saying it's going to be a successful suit. I'm saying they would have standing to sue. The argument would be that the president is infringing on state sovereignty because he doesn't have the power under the Insurrection Act. That when you pull the cord on the Insurrection Act, that you should have cooperation from a governor. Now, there have been, let's discuss, and you may have already discussed, moments in our nation's history where the president has said, I'm sending in troops. That was really about implementing desegregation decisions during the civil rights era. We haven't seen the Insurrection Act, in my view, used in modern times against the will of a governor, which is a lot.
There are key differences between what played out during the civil rights era. That was a government, a state government, and a governor not working according to federal law, and so the president stepped in. This is not that situation. This is the president deciding he needs to come in and enact law and order in a city and a state that has said they do not want his help. They want to maintain control of their own said militia. The governor saying today he is the commander-in-chief of the California National Guard, and that power has now been usurped by the president of the United States. The legal showdown will continue tomorrow as the fight continues on the streets of Los Angeles. Mark.
All right, Jory Rand, thank you. More from Governor Newsom today. The governor responding on MSNBC to White House border czar Tom Homan, who said he would arrest him amid the chaos in L.A.
Tom Homan, the border czar, said to me yesterday he did not rule out literally arresting you, nor Mayor Bass, if you interfere in his words. He said you hadn't yet.
He's a tough guy. Why doesn't he do that? He knows where to find me. But you know what? Let your hands off 4-year-old girls that are trying to get educated. Let your hands off these poor people. They're just trying to live their lives, man. Trying to live their lives, paying their taxes. Been here 10 years. The fear, the horror. The hell is this guy? Come after me, arrest me. Let's just get it over with. Tough guy. You know, I don't give a damn. But I care about my community. I care about this community. The hell are they doing? These guys need to grow up. They need to stop. And we need to push back. And I'm sorry to be so clear, but that kind of bloviating is exhausting. So, Tom, arrest me. Let's go.
The governor calling President Trump the, quote, commander of chaos, calling his orders immoral. We have Gabe Santos overhead in Air 7 over downtown L.A. The streets starting to look quite a bit emptier than they were, filling now with sirens and police vehicles on the move. Gabe?
Yeah, we're continuing to follow little outbursts of behavior from individuals in the downtown area. These officers are headed towards 8th Street and Broadway. You can see them making a left turn there, and I believe that's going to be 7th Street. There was an officer needs help call in that area. We're dealing with a lot of additional air traffic, a lot of airships from law enforcement agencies, and also the weather. The marine layer is pretty low over the downtown area, so we can't really get over where the LAPD ship is working over that particular scene. So we're trying to kind of see from a distance, and as these individual calls come out, we're trying to make sense of them and see what's actually going on. So you saw all of those units going southbound on Hill Street, and they're going to investigate this officer needs help call. We're going to try and find further details on that and see exactly what the result of that was. But as I'm hearing that, there's also another call for assistance on 1st and Spring Street. So we're hearing these individual calls, these individual intersections where officers are dealing with individuals that are still throwing projectiles and fireworks and things of that nature at officers. I'm still seeing, you know, every couple of minutes a flash or a flashbang or a firework go off. So you're still seeing a lot of little bits of activity like that. And as I look out the windshield of Air 7, I see a lot. I just want to point out, I see a lot of people still on the road. So it's not like people are avoiding downtown. I think there's a looky-loo factor to it all, where you just have a lot of people coming downtown to just kind of see what's going on. And you could see there, this looks like Hill Street and Ord, somebody launching the fireworks up into the air right in front of that. I believe that's a LAPD skirmish line a little bit south of that location. And LAPD just has to manage their resources. They have to decide, you know, we're not going to chase after each individual fireworks thrower or fire starter. We have to kind of methodically approach this and only move forward if the situation calls for it. So we're going to keep an eye on this and keep an eye on the various intersections where LAPD is still dealing with individuals apparently bent on causing mayhem this evening.
Indeed. Gabe Santos in Air 7. Worth noting, too, as we look around, it does seem like there are more law enforcement officers gathering in downtown Los Angeles now. The mutual aid call came from the LAPD, and agencies have begun to respond, in particular the LA County Sheriff's Department, which has deployed a number of officers, a lot of them, into downtown LA to help with the response there. So we're starting to see the police beginning to match, if not outnumber, the numbers of people who are still bent on causing harm and disarray in downtown Los Angeles. So they are perhaps getting a handle on things. The mayor indicating that earlier. The sheriff also indicating that. Hundreds of people gathering outside the Immigration Service building in San Francisco today. They're rallying against the ICE raids and deportations that are happening across the state. Officers in riot gear were seen there trying to disperse the crowds. This move comes as a response to demonstrations in L.A. as law enforcement used tear gas, rubber bullets, and flashbangs to control the crowd. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth's comments threatening to deploy U.S. Marines on U.S. soil drew a small group of demonstrators to Camp Pendleton today. More than 4 people held up signs at the main gate to Camp Pendleton with slogans such as, quote, "We're on a slippery slope to fascism," and "Your oath is to the Constitution." President Donald Trump has already federalized and deployed National Guard troops to L.A. after protests erupted over Friday's immigration raids. This coming despite strong objections from the governor and the mayor of Los Angeles. Patrick Saunders is an Air Force veteran. He organized the Camp Pendleton demonstration.
We want to show our support to the military members that work here. We want to kind of remind them of what their duty is to us, but additionally we want to make it very publicly known that we condemn any sort of action by the administration of using active duty or National Guard troops on U.S. citizens.
Meanwhile, U.S. Northern Command confirms 500 Marines from 29 Palms are on what is called prepared to deploy status, should they be called to help protect federal property and personnel. Let's look live right now again at Air 7 over downtown Los Angeles. Another long convoy of law enforcement vehicles on the move. We are seeing them deployed and moving to various hot spots around the downtown area, which has been the scene of so much of the chaos that erupted after the peaceful demonstrations against the ICE raids that have taken place this week. We'll be back with more coverage right after the break.
those very people who say they are fighting for their cause, this is not helping the immigrant community of Los Angeles.
Mayor Bass also said she will continue to talk with the Trump administration about immigration enforcement and the protests.
NBC4's Karma Dickerson continues our coverage now near downtown L.A. She was at the news conference with the LAPD's Jim McDonald tonight. Karma.
Yes, just a short time ago, we heard from the LAPD chief, and he wanted to set the record straight about a few things. First, he wanted to reiterate that LAPD does not cooperate with civil immigration enforcement. They're not working for or with ICE, he says. Nevertheless, he also wanted to reiterate that it's important that protests stay peaceful. They say that they support the community's right to protest, but what they've been seeing over the last several days is concerning.
Tonight we had individuals out there shooting commercial-grade fireworks at our officers. That can kill you. They have a hammer and they'll break up the cinder block and use that, pass it around to throw at officers.
About 60 people arrested so far this weekend, from the streets to the 101 freeway.
We're trying to get into that posture where we're able to make arrests. Right now, really, our officers are really under attack.
LAPD responding to 3 days of violence as immigration enforcement led to protests, which turned into periods of chaos. The National Guard sent in to help, but Chief Jim McDonald saying law enforcement wasn't consulted.
The National Guard was federalized, so they're working for the U.S. Army, not for the California State National Guard. Do we need them? Well, looking at tonight, this thing has gotten out of control. Looking at the violence tonight, I think we got to make a reassessment.
Some other takeaways from today's news conference when talking and hearing from the chief. One, he said expect many more arrests to come, both on the local level and on the federal level. He said they're going through video. They're going to be reviewing social media posts, a series of things to try to understand who is responsible for some of this damage and some of the things that they consider a crime that happened out on the streets. Another thing he wanted to address was the topic of whether or not it took LAPD a long time to respond for when ICE called for aid on Friday. He said when ICE officers did call for assistance, LAPD tried to get there as quickly as they could, but they had to deal with some of the same things people on the ground had to deal with. They had to deal with traffic. They had to deal with tear gas. They were not previously aware of what was going on, and so they responded in about 38 minutes, and he said that was as fast as those officers could get there given the circumstances. Another thing we wanted to know about is there potential for curfew. The chief did sound very concerned about what he's seeing out on the streets. He says he's been in touch with the LA County Sheriff. The two of them have discussed it, and it's not something that is necessarily going to be rolled out anytime soon, but it is something that is on the table, and so we just certainly have to stay tuned. They're encouraging everyone to stay peaceful. Reporting live, I'm Karma Dickerson, NBC4 News.
All right, Karma, thank you so much. We're also learning new details about the arrests that have been made in the past 3 days. Today, 27 people were arrested, 10 by the LAPD and 17 by CHP. Yesterday, a total of 30 protesters were arrested in Paramount by local law enforcement. And on Friday, federal agents arrested 45 people while conducting immigration raids in multiple locations. Also arrested the SEIU California president, David Huerta.
Right now, we want to check in back on News Chopper for our Roland Spruill overhead. It looks like the 101 there. Roland, we understand that smoke there, was that just another fire that was put out?
Yeah, LA City Fire Department making pretty quick work of yet another fire. This one right alongside Broadway and the 101 freeway. This is in the vegetation right alongside the freeway. And just before you came to us, flames were starting to make their way up into those trees. Again, LA City Fire Department task force getting on scene and getting this fire knocked down. Now that's in the background, in the foreground, and as we try and make our way around here, what you can't see beyond these trees here is what appears to be another skirmish line of officers, and I can't really make out exactly what they're looking at or what they're focusing on, but they seem to be in position, in tactical gear, and they're focused towards something this way, but I have not been able to see exactly what it is.
Okay, Roland, we'll check in with you maybe when we have a little bit more on that. We know you'll be watching it, but joining us on the phone right now, LA County Sheriff Robert Luna, thank you for joining us tonight.
Kathy, thank you for having me on.
All right. First question for you is, I know you have been very vocal about saying your men and women at the department are there to protect public safety. So tell me how you're feeling tonight as a leader of this group and what happens going forward.
Well, I'd like to say that tonight at approximately 6 p.m., the Los Angeles Police Department requested assistance from the Sheriff's Department. We sent well over 100 of our deputies into downtown L.A. I think a lot of your coverage is seeing that. We're going to be sending even more. I also requested formal mutual aid from the rest of L.A. County and outside county agencies. You're going to start seeing a lot of other agencies coming into downtown Los Angeles, along with even more additional CHP officers. So just a warning to everybody out there. You know, earlier today, there were some legitimate people exercising their First Amendment rights. What we're seeing for the last several hours and even now, a lot of unlawful behavior. We're not going to tolerate it. So I really advise people out there, go home. It's over for tonight. If you don't, part of the assistance that I'm sending to our brothers and sisters at LAPD are sheriff booking teams. They are capable of booking many people at one time. So unless you want a free night in jail tonight, go home. Stop destroying our city. Stop committing acts of violence against our police officers and deputy sheriffs. This needs to stop, man. It makes our city look horrible.
It's a really unfortunate sight, Sheriff. Jonathan Gonzalez here with you as well, and we want to thank you for your time for speaking with us. The big question tonight, and it was asked of Chief McDonald. We just talked to Mayor Bass about the possibility of a curfew. Mayor Bass indicated, look, this is just a few isolated intersections there in only downtown LA, but is that something that is an ongoing discussion? Our Carmen Dickerson also just brought it up a few moments ago. Is that something that you guys are considering at this point, or are you just trying to get these few people who are left here on the street into custody?
Curfew is always a very effective tool that's always on the table for us. I think all of you saw that during the fires, because we had some issues with looters, we used that very effectively. Those conversations have been taking place with county leaders and city leaders, so it is a consideration. Are we ready to roll with it right now? Not exactly. We're seeing the progress that's being made by all the awesome work that the deputy sheriffs and police officers are doing. And like I said earlier, we got a lot more coming in. And the goal is to bring peace and calm back to the downtown area. And
Absolutely.
What I was also going to say just really quick, please keep in mind that apart from the downtown area, we still are providing police services to the rest of the county of Los Angeles and even the city of Los Angeles. We still have 911 calls coming in. There's a lot of work on a Sunday night like tonight.
Oh, we know we work on weekends. It's very busy. I mean, we're at a busy area all the time. I'm just wondering, I know you're a brotherhood and sisterhood, all of the organizations, CHP, LAPD, everybody works together and you do help out in situations. How does it make you feel as a longtime law enforcement official to see officers attacked the way they were today and to see vehicles destroyed?
It hurts. All your viewers need to keep in mind if the family of a police officer, if you can imagine, you send your loved one to work, you're watching TV, you're just praying that they don't get seriously hurt or injured. So it's a tough job, and our people are doing amazing work out there. I'm very proud of them, and that's why I really, when you look at the protest, again, we condone the First Amendment right to do so, but the minute you start attacking police officers, that sends the wrong message. And, I believe there's a legitimate reason to protest, but this is not sending the right message. It's actually the absolute wrong message. And a lot of people out there are watching this going, what the heck are these folks doing? That is not how we make progress, specifically with this very challenging issue of immigration.
There it is. Sheriff Luna, we heard Mayor Bass say this hasn't been a protest in several hours now. And we know that you are a passionate supporter of the First Amendment, but when it becomes violent like this, all that goes out the window. Talk about the misconceptions that you've been dealing with, your department, the LAPD, about your role in federal immigration enforcement, which is to say that for decades now, you guys have no role in federal immigration enforcement.
That's correct. The LA County Sheriff's Department policy is that we do not engage in civil immigration enforcement. That has been a longstanding policy. We follow state law. County policy is even more strict than that. Now, we do that because, one, we don't have the training or the personnel or the time to do that because we're so busy doing other things. Now, please know that when people commit crimes, whether they're immigrants or not, we're going to take appropriate action. And our deputies are very successful at reducing crime and taking the right people to jail. And that's important because I think there's this misconception that, all immigrants are committing crime, violent crime or serious crime. That's just the facts don't prove that right. It's not correct. But I do support the fact that there are individuals that, with due process, probably need to be removed from our community when they are violent criminals or sex offenders and things of that nature. But there's a difference. There's a difference, as they say, between crooks and cooks. We don't want to be taking the cooks, the maids, and the gardeners into custody. And because of our rich history here with immigration in Los Angeles, that's why you see all the anger out here, and I understand that.
And Sheriff Luna, we asked this of Mayor Bass, too. What do you say to the people who might have business in downtown LA tomorrow, have to go to work? How do they stay safe as we go forward?
That's, again, an excellent question. I would have them check their local news in the morning. We'll do everything we can to put out the appropriate information. I believe with all the resources we have here now and the more that are coming in and the strategies we have to make mass arrest, I think we will make this area safe for people coming in tomorrow. But then everyone needs to be aware that, from my understanding, there are several protests that are planned for the downtown area again tomorrow. We, as a department, working with other departments, are preparing for that. So just remain vigilant. If, for example, maybe call your employer and make sure that it's going to be safe for everybody to go to work. But our job is to keep these streets safe and make sure that people can come in, do their work, shop, go to restaurants, and do everything they can. And business owners are always very welcome to call, whether it's us at the Sheriff's Department or the LAPD, just to make sure that everything's going to be okay.
Sheriff Luna, to your point, Los Angeles is a city of immigrants, has always been. It's such a beautiful thing for that, and that's why there's so much fear in the community about this ongoing federal immigration enforcement. But we're expecting, according to the Trump administration and the border czar, Tom Homan, saying they're expecting weeks of this, at least a month worth of this. How you're going to see passionate protests, but how do we prevent the kind of violence that we're seeing tonight in downtown LA? How do we prevent this from happening again tomorrow, Tuesday, and so on?
I think we consistently communicate with our communities and maybe show videos and pictures of the destruction. And honestly, if you think about it, this may feed into somebody's perception that this city needs to be cleaned up. From an immigration perspective, we cannot, we got to send a strong message that this is not okay, that there's a different path to success or working things out. Living in the extremes of one direction or another is not the answer. We really need to work together, communicate together, and hopefully we find a good path forward.
All right. Sheriff Luna, thank you so much for joining us here on the NBC4 News tonight.
Thank you for having me. You guys have a good night.
You too. All right, we want to go to our own Tracy Leong right now.
Yeah, she's live. I believe we're not even clear where she is right now. Tracy, go ahead and give us your location and what you've been seeing tonight. I believe you're in Compton.
Yeah, that's right, Jonathan and Kathy. I know it's a busy night. We've been all over the area tonight. We were at Alondra and Atlantic, where it was a much different picture tonight compared to what we saw last night when these streets and these sidewalks were packed with people. There was a car burning in the middle of the intersection, and a lot of the businesses were vandalized, including this Arco gas station, which is why it's closed tonight. An out-of-control crowd knocked down a mobile surveillance trailer outside the Arco gas station near Alondra and Atlantic in Compton Saturday, as cars and bikes circled a burning car in the middle of the intersection. Law enforcement stood across the street as angry demonstrators shouted and hurled objects at them. Tear gas and non-lethal rounds were fired into the crowds in Compton and Paramount after the LASD declared an unlawful assembly and people were ordered to disperse peacefully. On Sunday, after the crowds cleared the area, the cleanup began for the businesses surrounding the protests. Crews were out sweeping up the debris, boarding up broken windows, and covering up the graffiti.
It's really, really sad this moment because it was the words. It's something sad.
Elisa Mendoza owns the restaurant La Ceiba in Compton. She shared this video from inside her restaurant that shows her workers helping a deputy who was hit with tear gas on Saturday.
It was a moment really, really sad for me because the people need help. They need the water, some food. My people help a lot to the deputy.
Mendoza said about 10 deputies ran into her restaurant needing help, along with others who were also hit with tear gas. Her restaurant became a temporary refuge, and she said her workers didn't hesitate to care for those in need. And back out here live, Jonathan and Kathy, much calmer compared to yesterday, but the cleanup is just getting started. There is profanity graffitied all around this area that still needs to be covered up. Reporting live in Compton, Tracy Leong, NBC4 News.
Tracy, thank you. Our coverage of the ongoing demonstrations will continue in just a moment. Right now, we want to take a live look and get a check of our weather.
That's right. Shauna Mendiola is here to talk about more of that June gloom, but I like it.
Yeah, you like it because it starts off nice and cool, and then we get the sun in the afternoon. We are already seeing it move on in, so let's take a look right now at Universal City outside our studio. Can barely see the buildings out there because the clouds have returned and temperatures have cooled to the 60s. So as we get to those overnight hours, more of the marine layer will move in, and it will encompass all of Southern California, including Orange County, where your hour-by-hour forecast will get cloudier as we wake up tomorrow morning. So about 6 a.m., temperatures in the low 60s, cloudy all the way through the morning. We get to about 10 a.m. and then we start to see the peaks of sunshine in between those clouds, clearing them out as we head to noon and 1 o'clock. Temperatures there will be in the 70s, but we keep climbing uphill in terms of temperatures. This week, here is what we expect. Father's Day is next Sunday, and we're going to be much warmer here. So first, we're going to start off with some morning clouds, afternoon sunshine. By lunchtime, all of us should see that sun, so it's a faster clearing marine layer. At the coast, we're going to see some 70s, so cooler there, but hot inland. That's where we're going to get more of the heat moving in. And then as we head to the middle of next week, we get a little bit of cooling before we get to the weekend, where things are going to get warm once again. So to give you an idea of what to expect, here is a little roller coaster ride of temperatures for areas like Fontana. We'll look at your forecast here with 80s on the way for Monday, rising to the 90s Tuesday and Wednesday. So thin marine layer there for you. You may not see much at all, and then you get to Thursday and Friday with a little bit more marine layer. It'll help cool things off a bit. We get to the weekend and notice how things get back to those upper 90s on the way inland. And it's all because of the setup that we have here. Whenever we're below the jet stream, we get warmer air. And right now, that's what we're seeing. And we're going to see warm air all the way through Wednesday with a little cool down here as we get some help from the north. That's going to be for a couple days before we get warm again. Because notice how that ridge starts to develop once again. And this warmth is going to push in and bring us some of those warmer temperatures as we head to Saturday and Sunday of next weekend. So warmer day tomorrow. We're going to start the week off with the clouds, and then the sunshine will shine. Inland Empire temperatures 80s and 90s for you. 80s for the Orange County area, with downtown LA at about 80 degrees. Triple-digit numbers for you in Lancaster and in Big Bear. We're going to see some warm temperatures in the mountains. 80s all the way through next week. So things are warming up. But overall, I'd say this is a quiet week ahead with just your typical June gloom weather pattern. All right, LA, Orange County, 80s for the next few days. And in fact, 80s all the way through. We're going to warm up here Tuesday, Wednesday, and then Thursday, Friday, we'll take those temperatures down and then warm it back up next weekend. Some 90s on the way for you as well. Inland Empire, there you go. 96 by Tuesday, Wednesday, 94, taking you down to the low 90s, but heating it back up as we head to next week. Desert communities, of course, we'll see those triple-digit numbers for the first half of the week, taking it down to the 90s following that. And there are your 80s for the mountains. A toasty week ahead for you in the higher peaks. That's been a look at your forecast. Kathy, back to you.
All right. Thank you, Shauna. And it is just after 11:30. We continue to follow breaking news we've been covering all day. And that is a third night of unrest amid immigrant enforcement raids across Los Angeles County. Earlier today, we saw a peaceful protest, but throughout the day, we saw demonstrators blocking traffic. And tonight, we've seen people setting fires and throwing objects at law enforcement vehicles.
Officials saying this has not been a protest for hours now. They're blaming agitators. We want to get up to Roland Spruill live and News Chopper 4. Roland has been with us all day following these different instances of violence. Roland, we see officers there on the ground. Tell us what you're seeing and what kind of activity has been going on here.
Yeah, Jonathan, from all indications, it's been pretty quiet on this particular area. We are on Spring Street, just north of the 101 freeway. We have seen a number of skirmish lines by LAPD and LA Sheriff's Department. We just got off the phone with Sheriff Luna, and indeed, the LA County Sheriff Department is in the house right now, and they also are holding down some real estate over here off of Broadway as well. And let me see if I can push in and find them, because they were moving around a little bit. But they've got several squads of LA County Sheriff deputies here, and they were holding down this particular street earlier. It's been probably about 20 minutes ago or so. There were several vehicles that seemed to be challenging them, perhaps taunting them. But then after a while, they turned around and left the area. But basically, this is all we've seen on this side of the freeway is just a massive response by both LAPD, LA Sheriff. We also heard Sheriff Luna report that other mutual aid agencies were going to be coming into the area in the ensuing hours. And so I would anticipate they're going to have this area pretty much locked down in pretty short order, guys.
Roland Spruill up at News Chopper 4. Roland, thank you. We will continue to follow News Chopper 4 live tonight. You'll have it there on the bottom of your screen on the left side there. Meantime, today's events may look familiar. LA has been at the center of the immigration battle. Sunday, February 2nd, about 4 months ago, protesters also took over Highway 101 in nearly the very same spot, calling for an end to mass deportation of migrants after President Trump took office. Thousands of people protested that day, though there were no reports of any arrests.
And a brand new update in Glendale, where the city is deciding to terminate its contract with Homeland Security and ICE to house federal immigration detainees. Now, last week, the city confirmed that it was helping house undocumented immigrants at the local jail. It is a contract Glendale has had with ICE since 2007. But tonight, in a tweet, the city says that doesn't align with its values and it does not enforce immigration laws.
Meanwhile, 3 LA-based Congress members visited the Adelanto detention facility this morning.
And they held a news conference to demand answers following the ICE raids. NBC4's Annette Ariella has more.
We're standing just outside the gates of the Adelanto Detention Center, which is roughly 100 miles northeast of downtown Los Angeles. And it was here earlier today where congressional leaders, along with Judy Chu, several immigration attorneys, and nonprofit organizations like KABC and Chirla were denied access to the facility. I spoke on the phone with Congresswoman Judy Chu, who told me that they have received reports from community members stating that people arrested in the LA raids on Friday were brought here to the Adelanto Detention Center. Now, NBC4 has not independently confirmed that information. Representative Chu did say that security guards closed the gates, locked them, and did not allow anyone to enter. And just as we arrived to the detention center and were crossing the street, a security officer spotted us shutting the gates before we could reach the building. Now, right now, we are working on gathering more details. As soon as we get new information, we, of course, will relay it to you. In Adelanto, I'm Annette Arriola, NBC4 News.
Other top elected leaders from across the country talking about what they're seeing. Democratic Senator Cory Booker arguing National Guard troops are an unnecessary escalation.
For the president to do this when it wasn't requested, breaking with generations of tradition, is only going to incite the situation and make things worse.
And again, this is the first time since 1965 in Alabama that a president has activated a state's National Guard force without a request from that state's governor. And here's a live look from News Chopper 4. Right now, Roland Spruill has been following this breaking situation with us from the day through the afternoon and now into the night. Roland, what are you seeing right now?
Yeah, we're just taking a look at these areas and just kind of surveilling to see what kind of activity is being seen. And you can see kind of a group of people there. That's off of First Street and Spring right there. And we're trying to see really what these skirmish lines, why or where they might be positioning themselves and for what reason, and why are they holding down certain real estate. For instance, right here, we don't see any protesters or anything for quite a distance. It is otherwise pretty quiet on this particular side of Spring Street on the other side of the 101. But as we push in here, you can see what looks like some protesters on the other side of the freeway here. So not a whole lot of activity. From all indications, it looks like a lot of people have dispersed, maybe gone on, maybe to continue tomorrow perhaps, but a lot of law enforcement making their way here into the downtown area, taking up real estate, taking up positions, and getting their arms around this whole thing, guys.
Yeah, making their presence felt, no doubt. Roland Spruill up in News Chopper 4. Thank you. We'll be right back.
Sponsored by Ontario International Airport, where you'll find up to 90 non-stops a day to nearly 30 major destinations. Ontario International Airport. SoCal, so easy.
And we do continue to follow breaking news. That is the protests and the violence that followed tonight in LA County. Leaders representing millions of us here in Southern California are reacting to the immigration raids and the response from the Trump administration.
NBC4's Alita Lopez spoke to local government representatives who tell us why they're concerned.
I do think it's heavy-handed. I don't think it was necessary.
We talked to LA County Supervisor Hilda Solis about the immigration raids and the response by President Donald Trump to bring in the National Guard.
And it's unfortunate because many of the Guard represent our local neighborhoods. They come from LA County. And how does that put, what kind of a position does that put them in? And I think that it is heavy-handed.
Since the raids across LA County that started Friday, demonstrations like this one have focused in part on what is happening to the people now detained.
Now, my concern is that there's due process, that they have the ability under our Constitution to be consulted to talk to their lawyers.
Right now, this administration and ICE has been empowered that they're not even letting members of Congress do their oversight when they're visiting these detention centers, something that's written into law.
Congresswoman Nanette Diaz-Barragan represents the district that includes Paramount, where demonstrations turned tense following an immigration raid at a local Home Depot on Saturday morning. She calls Trump's actions a, quote, very dangerous power grab.
And I think that this is part of his strategy to deflect from his failed policies to everything that's going wrong, whether it's the tanking economy, whether it's prices going up, whether it's the healthcare he's taken away from millions of Americans. He goes right back to immigration, and we know that California has always been a target of his.
Is there anything that California local authorities, you on the national level, can do in order to counter some of the actions that you might believe are excessive?
Well, I think what you're seeing happening now, where people are showing up and speaking out, they're documenting, with cameras, we're documenting with stories. That is all going to make a difference, but we need people to do it peacefully in a nonviolent way.
Is there anything that you as a local leader can do?
I am trying to make sure that we get information about Know Your Rights, calling our Office of Immigrant Affairs, because they hire groups of CBOs and defense. And people can call and speak to them, and they'll speak their languages, whomever that might be, and they can call 211 and get that information.
And Supervisor Solis also echoing the call that if you are demonstrating, to do so in a peaceful manner. Now, Representative Barragan tells me she'll be looking into how to bring more oversight to the types of immigration operations we have been seeing over the last couple of days, which could include going through the courts or taking legislative action. In downtown Los Angeles, Lolita Lopez, NBC4 News.
And another live look from News Chopper 4 over downtown Los Angeles right now. As it stands tonight, you can see police there on the scene. We're going to have more coverage in just a moment. And right now, we're going to take a final check of our breaking news. Tensions flaring up all day across downtown L.A. Our Roland Spruill is up in News Chopper 4 with more. Roland?
Yeah, Kathy, Sheriff Luna saying that they requested a number of mutual aid agencies to respond here. We just saw probably about 36 police cars getting off the 101 freeway. They're all staging in multiple areas, so they're going to get this area locked down in pretty quick order as the night progresses. Kathy?
Roland Spruill, thank you so much. And remember, for our complete coverage now and throughout the night, you can always find us at NBCLA.com and the NBCLA app.
Today in LA is going to have the very latest on these ongoing protests and federal immigration actions to start your morning tomorrow and your week starting at 4 a.m. We hope that you have a great night and be good to each other.
This is Eyewitness News with live breaking news.
Right now at 11, downtown LA is under a curfew. The order to clear the streets of anyone who doesn't live or work there follows multiple nights of looting and vandalism sparked by federal immigration enforcement. Hundreds of LAPD officers joined by other law enforcement agencies, including some on horseback, arresting people tonight. That curfew in effect until 6 a.m. LA Mayor Karen Bass saying tonight this will likely be in place for several nights. The mayor also quick to point out that this curfew is only affecting about 1 square mile of the city of LA. This is the area impacted. It's bordered by the 5 freeway, the 110 freeway, and the 10 freeway on the south. We have live team coverage tonight. Chris Christie over downtown with a look at how the first night of the curfew is going tonight. Chris.
That's right, Mark. We were up here at 8 o'clock as that curfew went into effect, and there was a large group in front of the federal building, upwards of 700 protesters wrapping up their night, and swiftly made their way out of the downtown area with only a few stragglers to speak of. LAPD making a number of arrests almost immediately following that curfew going into effect, and now you see a parade of law enforcement making their way through the streets of LA in the heart of downtown, where there is very little commotion to speak of. There have been some isolated reports of tagging incidents, particularly on some city buses, but for the most part, it has been a very quiet night, especially compared to the last few nights where we have had so much pandemonium. Nothing like that tonight. That curfew seems to have had its desired effect. Now you can see law enforcement far outnumbering the number of people out on the streets in downtown LA. Reporting live from Air 7, I'm Chris Christie, ABC 7 Eyewitness News.
Chris, thank you. Some people still took to the streets tonight despite that mandatory curfew. Earlier, many of them joining religious leaders downtown for a peaceful vigil. Eyewitness News reporter Amy Powell live with that part of the story. Amy.
Well, Mark, we've got some police going by right now, but with the new curfew in effect, we have to tell you this is the quietest we've seen the streets in days. Now, this new curfew does not apply to some people, including residents of the downtown area, people traveling to and from work, the homeless, and credential media. But anyone else faces the possibility of arrest.
LAPD officers taking several people into custody, loading them onto a bus for violating a newly imposed curfew. Mayor Karen Bass taking a major step to end the chaos and crime in downtown LA, declaring an emergency curfew that went into effect at 8 p.m. and ends at 6 a.m.
Last night, there were 23 businesses that were looted, and I think that if you drive through downtown LA, the graffiti is everywhere. there and has caused significant damages to businesses and a number of properties.
The curfew affects 1 square mile of the downtown area between the 110 freeway and the 5 freeway, and from the 10 to where the 110 and 5 freeway merge.
I want to be absolutely clear that if you're within that designated curfew zone between the hours of 8 p.m. and 6 a.m. And are not exempt under the order, you're going to be subject to arrest.
A series of immigration raids in Southern California by ICE causing outrage and days of protests near the detention center downtown, where numerous people taken into custody by federal agents are being held. A number of vandals confronting police, setting off fireworks in the streets, and breaking into businesses. 67 protesters were arrested by the LAPD Tuesday after walking onto the 101 freeway and blocking traffic.
We will choose to see your humanity even when you deny us ours.
This evening, hundreds of people, including religious leaders and members of human rights organizations, taking part in a peaceful vigil at Gloria Molina Grand Park.
This is a city that's vibrant with migrants, built by migrants, in a country built by migrants. And so we want to stand in solidarity with the people who suffer.
I think that when we're talking about the protests that are happening here in Los Angeles and ICE being here, you can clearly see that Los Angeles does not agree with it. We don't need ICE, we need resources.
Mayor Bass says the LAPD and other California law enforcement agencies are working in unified command to stop the destruction and break-ins. She doesn't understand why President Trump sent the National Guard and is now believed to be sending Marines to Los Angeles.
We're not told. Basically, we have to operate on rumors. So rumor has it that there's 700 Marines that are going to come here. I have no idea what they would do when they would get here.
Elected leaders and police will meet tomorrow to discuss the curfew, but the mayor says it's likely to remain in effect for several days. Reporting live in downtown Los Angeles, Amy Powell, ABC 7 Eyewitness News.
Amy, thank you. Governor Gavin Newsom today jousting with President Trump over his deployment of federalized troops to the streets of Los Angeles. Nearly 5,000 Marines and National Guard members have been called into service. I went live with the latest. Michelle.
That's right, Mark. President Donald Trump today defending this escalation, saying that if he did not do this, Los Angeles would be burning. Governor Gavin Newsom, though, saying this is unlawful. And now we're going to see this play out in court as these anti-ICE protests continue to play out in the streets across Southern California.
Democracy is under assault before our eyes. This moment we have feared has arrived.
Passionate words from Governor Gavin Newsom tonight in response to President Donald Trump sending 4,000 National Guard members and more than 700 active duty Marines to Southern California amid ongoing ICE protests.
These are the men and women trained for foreign combat, not domestic law enforcement. We honor their service. We honor their bravery. But we do not want our streets militarized by our own armed forces.
Those remarks coming as a U.S. District Judge Tuesday declined California's emergency request to immediately block the president from expanding the current mission of CalGuard personnel and Marines. A hearing is now set for Thursday.
We're going to hear California and the Department of Justice make their cases as to whether or not the president has the power to federalize the National Guard.
It could be an uphill climb for California.
If we play this out, I don't think it makes a lot of sense that you would read this federal statute giving the president power as also allowing each state governor to veto that president's power.
ICE on X today sharing these images showing National Guardsmen with ICE officers during an arrest. Federal officials telling ABC News their role is to protect federal buildings and personnel, not to do law enforcement actions.
If we didn't send in the National Guard quickly, right now, Los Angeles would be burning to the ground.
Air 7 over the Naval Weapons Station in Seal Beach Tuesday, capturing Marines from 29 Palms training before they're presumably deployed to Los Angeles.
I can inform the rest of the country that when they do it, if they do it, they're going to be met with equal or greater force.
And mobilizing these troops also costly for taxpayers. During a House Appropriations Subcommittee hearing today, Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth estimated the price tag to be $134 million. That's for travel, food, and housing. He also said this deployment is expected to last for the next 60 days. Reporting live tonight in downtown Los Angeles, I'm Michelle Fisher, ABC 7 Eyewitness News.
Michelle Fisher, thank you. We continue our team coverage in Orange County, where we are seeing ICE raids and demonstrations. There are a few groups out demonstrating tonight in Santa Ana. The National Guard also deployed in that area. Eyewitness News reporter Leanne Suter live with a look at what's happening there. Leanne.
Mark, the crowd slowly starting to thin out here on Bristol Street here in Santa Ana, but they certainly are still continuing to cause some issues. It's starting to feel more like a street party, but those we spoke with tonight say they are coming out for one main reason, and that is to speak out against the raids by ICE. Explosive protests continuing into the night as dozens take to Bristol Street near McFadden and Santa Ana.
I want to support those who don't want, who they're trying to get out.
Families and kids joining in to make their voices heard, everyone demanding an end to the immigration enforcement throughout the area. Shame on you! A smaller group gathering outside the federal buildings, now being protected by National Guard troops and federal police, a much calmer scene. Then Monday, when tensions reached a boiling point as the crowd started throwing objects at officers, federal agents using less lethal rounds and tear gas to push back the crowd and make arrests.
It started getting out of control when they started pushing people back and they started shooting the rubber bullets, because people got more upset and more angry.
Demonstrators gathering once again say they are frustrated. Some are taking advantage of the situation to cause havoc and say peaceful protests are the only way to ensure their message is heard.
I do think that anyone who's not here with good intent should not come out here. That's what's causing the bad, negative energy around this whole stuff. It is important that we all show up for everyone who does not have a voice, who can be out here protesting their rights. We want ICE out of OC. We're exercising our rights.
And so far, no major confrontations between any of these demonstrators and police. They're pretty much letting them go about their activities and stuff here tonight. No word of any arrests. And again, no word of any damage, which is good news for the area. Live in Santa Ana, Leanne Suter, ABC 7 Eyewitness News.
Leanne, thank you. In Ventura County, ICE agents seen here converging on produce farms, workers running from the fields. This is happening in Oxnard. Not known how many people were detained in this operation. Agriculture is a $2 billion industry in that county, and local farms rely on migrants to pick the crops year-round. We're in fear that they will take us, but here we are working hard. Those are the words of that one farm worker, that woman telling Eyewitness News that she fears ICE will take them into federal custody. She says while workers may be here illegally, they also pay their taxes. Stay with Eyewitness News for continuing coverage of the curfew, the protests, and the immigration raids. We'll update you throughout this newscast. You can also follow the latest updates overnight, online, and on the ABC 7 Los Angeles app. There is other news to get to tonight. 3 people dead after a motorcycle being chased by San Bernardino County deputies collided with a car. This happened about 10:30 this morning in the city of Redlands. Deputies trying to pull over the motorcyclist for reckless driving, but the rider took off. The chase ending in a crash at Redlands Boulevard and Tennessee Street. Both the motorcyclist and the driver of that Toyota Prius were killed along with a passenger. And we continue to follow breaking news, a curfew in effect in downtown LA, tracking any new developments tonight. And we're getting new details on a brush fire that erupted in the Inland Empire, forcing evacuations. We'll tell you what fire crews are telling us.
Hi, everyone. I'm meteorologist Dallas Rains. The marine layer looking good tonight. We'll look ahead to the weekend. It's going to warm up a little bit. I'll have the forecast next.